I do. I've deduct 2, so that's really 14. That's 18. That's 6, and that's 10. So it's really marginal between these three, but and then also there's these two. What else did we get? This is this is every last one. Yes, yes, every last one. About besides like the death throw. They really screwed up by putting this in front of me because I weed every last mint, probably by noon. I love mints. Oh man. Okay. I really wanted to wear the tie, but I tried it and it's too short. Cause I'm an extra long tie guy, Miss Sarah. I'm gonna figure it out. I have like different blues and yellows. It's one of those morning things, Miss Sarah. And like last night, I was tired. I was like, I ran in my closet. I'd steam all this. This is like my navy red, like I feel like I'm president time. I got a big neck, Miss Sarah. I don't know what's gonna work at this point. I do need to order some more ties, but no, and my pretty gold one I love wearing. I burn it with the iron. So now I gotta order a different one. I'm a mess. Yeah, yeah, she does, and she needs to chill out. Get caught up to her. Good morning. Yeah, trying to find a place to set up. Hey, good morning. Good to see you.
How you?
Good. I'm excited. This is fun. a student, and then I popped in the community at one point.
Okay.
Um,
The students, y'all had a lot of members.
it was full day long. Oh yeah.
All right. You're welcome. It's on rollers.
I'm ready to pull Jimmy in.
No, we're going to go downstairs. And then this room is mine. Yes.
Thank you. Put the light, if there's something to look at on, you can turn on.
Audio. You want to be interviewed?
No
You're
worries.
working for KPLC today too?
And I mentioned, I gave one of the students think that you were not in it,
Oh yeah, I was probably running around. I was probably like at some of those.
but I thought it was a good time.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I told you I would be. McNeese is destined.
I, you know, yeah, well, yeah, only, quiet. I mean, we gotta look at my script and see if
At least seem to be a little.
I'm gonna add the stakeholder group comment. Remember how we discussed last night about, you know, saying that, to ask them to check their emails. Well, that's it. That will be,
It's coming. I was on that.
do we have live mics? We'll find out. All right, good morning. Test to make sure that this microphone is on. Good, thank you so much. Welcome to the McNeese State University Presidential Search. As the chair of the University of Louisiana System Board, I'm here to welcome you. My name's Jimmy Clark, and I want to, first of all, begin by thanking everybody who participated yesterday in the activities, in the conversations, the dialogue that took place between multiple stakeholder groups and the candidates that we're going to interview and talk to today. So a big thank you to the entire McNeese community who participated, and certainly the Calcasieu Parish and regional folks that contributed to the conversation. It means a lot to us as committee members to gain insight and have a chance to listen not only to the concerns of y'all, but certainly give us some insights in terms of how to proceed today. Before we begin, let me remind you that anyone who wishes to make a public comment about an agenda item must complete a testimony information card and hand it to a UL System staff member seated in the front Dr. O'Rourke, Dr. Callaway are there, willing and ready to accept those cards. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. I want to also add a follow-up to the stakeholder group circumstance. Yesterday, there was a QR code that was provided, and stakeholders were asked to submit observations, comments, yay or nay opinions relative to what they were hearing. We have received more than 100 comments. Those should have been sent, committee members, to you with a spreadsheet. Check emails. If we don't have it, we'll get it to you during the day, during breaks and so on, if you can kind of take a look and make sure that you see those. Likewise, we'll have a chance before we begin any deliberations to go through those and see those. So again, I want to assure all those who did participate that what you are saying is being conveyed, and we are looking at and listening as a part of this process. All right, and finally, as a courtesy, I'm going to ask everybody to double check your cell phones. Keep those off during the conversations today. And now, I'm going to ask Dr. Callaway to call the roll.
President Rick Gallo,
Here.
Dr. Jimmy Clark,
Here?
Ms. Lola Donahoe,
Present.
Dr. John Noble,
Here.
Mr. Dana Peterson,
Here.
Mr. Mark Romero,
Here.
Mr. Brad Stevens,
Here.
Ms. Bailey Willis, Dr. Jimmy Trahan,
Here.
Judge Charlotte Bushnell, Judge James Kane Jr.,
Here.
Dr. John Condos,
Here.
Mr. Sam Gill,
Here.
Ms. Heather Griffith, here, Mr. Kevin Guidry, Ms. Nicole Moncrief,
Present.
Mr. Ryan Navarre,
Here.
Ms. Angela Queenan,
Here.
Mr. Jason Rochelle,
Here.
Mr. Dennis Stein,
Here.
Mr. Gray Stream, Judge Jean Thibodeau.
Here.
Thank you, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Erica. At this time, I would like to ask Supervisor Donahoe to provide the invocation.
If you'll join me in prayer, please.
Dear Lord, we're so grateful for the opportunity to come and serve you. Help us to deliberate and to make the right decisions for this university. Thank you for all the blessings you've given us, and guide us in all that we do. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Those of you who have been participating ongoing may think that this is a bit redundant, but I really think it would be worthwhile to ask each one of our committee members to reintroduce themselves, certainly to the audience and to those. We are being live streamed so that people know who we are and who you represent or where you come from. So if you wouldn't mind, Sam, starting us on the far left, and we'll just come down a very brief, quick introduction.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. My name is Samuel Gill. I am the SGA president here at McNeese State University and the Board of Regents student member.
I'm Dennis Stein. I'm with Stein Lumber Company, and I'm a graduate of McNeese.
Angela Queenan. I'm with Global Crane and Rigging, and I am the president of the McNeese Foundation.
Brian Navarre. I'm the owner of Navarre Auto Group and a graduate of McNeese State University.
Good morning, I'm Gene Thibodeau. I'm the retired judge of the Third Circuit Court of Appeal. I have practiced law kind of here in Lake Charles.
John Condos, live here, business owner and McNeese graduate.
John Noble, I'm supervisor on the University of Louisiana system, retired orthopedic surgeon and businessman and graduate of McNeese.
Good morning. I'm Lola Donahoe. I'm from Natchitoches, Louisiana. I'm a supervisor on the ULS board system.
Good morning, Dana Peterson, member of the Board of Supervisors from New Orleans.
Good morning, Rick Gallo, President, University of Louisiana System.
Again, Jimmy Clark. I am a member of the Board of Supervisors, and I reside in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Brad Stevens, a board member from Hammond.
Mark Romero, UF System Board Member, New Iberia.
Jimmy Trahan, Vice President of Faculty Senate at McNeese State University.
Jason Rochelle, Spring Charles Moore Health System and serving as president of the McNeese Alumni Association.
Nicole Moncrief, Corporate Affairs, Sasson.
Ray String, local business person.
James Kane, I'm a federal judge. I'm a past graduate of McNeese State University and also past president of McNeese Alumni Association.
Charlotte Bushnell, I'm
Again, committee members, thank you so much for your willingness to participate in this process. It's been an invigorating one for those of us who serve as supervisors. The community inclusion is always important to what we do, and certainly from the introductions, you can tell that we have quite an astute and broad-based a group of committee members, so thank you. At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our committee chair, President Gallo.
All right, I'm going to take a cue from Dr. Clark and go off script for a second and introduce the Management and Leadership Institute from the University of Louisiana System. We have representatives from all 9 institutions, and they're here to witness the interviews of our semifinalist candidates. So I wanted to welcome the M&LI group. Thank y'all for, and Caprice IU, I thought I saw Caprice somewhere. There she is. Caprice, thank you for building this into their schedule for this visit. All right, back to the script. May I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the April 4th Search Committee meeting? Moved by Mr. Peterson, second by Ms. Donahoe. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. The purpose of the meetings today is to interview the 4 semifinalist candidates, but first, a little background. In February, the search committee held its initial meeting here on the campus to begin the preliminary work to find the next president for the university, as well as to gather input from the campus community on qualities that they would like to see in a new president. On April 4th, the committee met in Baton Rouge to review applications and select semifinalist candidates. After thoughtful discussion, the committee unanimously decided to invite 4 candidates, Dr. Andy Benoit, Dr. Shadow Robinson, Dr. Wade Roos, and Dr. Alan Vital. Yesterday, the candidates met with several campus groups. Past presidential searches in the University of Louisiana system have shown that these group meetings are very important to the committee's work. Participants of each group meeting had the opportunity to provide feedback. Those were anonymous reflections that were shared only with the committee. Also, any member of the public can provide feedback to the committee, either publicly at the meetings or via email. Does any member of the committee have any questions? Does anyone from the public have any comments at this time? Do we have any comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, before we begin our interview with semifinalist Dr. Andy Benoit, I would like to share with you the framework for today's interviews. Dr. Benoit will provide an opening statement, and then the search committee will ask questions. After the search committee has exhausted its questions, Dr. Erica Calais, UL System Vice President for Student Services, Safety, and Resilience, may address questions to the candidate that have been submitted by the audience. Again, if anyone would like to submit a question to be considered, please do so by completing the appropriate card and turning it in to our UL staff. We will entertain as many public questions as time allows. Following the public interview, the committee will enter into executive session to further dialogue with the candidates. Once Dr. Benoit has been interviewed and his executive session has concluded, the search committee will return to open session and recess until 11 a.m. interview with Dr. Robinson. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Benoit to the table. Dr. Andy Benoit is an experienced educator and leader in higher education administration, specializing in enrollment management, student success, and strategic planning. He holds a Doctor of Education degree from Liberty University, a Master of Education from McNeese State University, and a Bachelor of Arts from the same institution. Currently, he serves as Vice President of Enrollment Management at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. He oversees recruitment, financial aid, scholarships, orientation, and military services while shaping strategic enrollment plans and fostering community partnerships. Throughout his career, he has driven increases in enrollment and retention rates, secured grants, and promoted diversity and inclusion. Prior to his current role, he achieved notable growth at Lander University and held leadership positions at University of Louisiana at Lafayette. He also teaches public speaking as an adjunct instructor. Thank you, Dr. Benoit, for joining us today. Would you please take a few moments to introduce yourself and provide the committee with an opening statement?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It is an honor and a privilege to be here as an alumnus of McNeese State University, a two-time alumnus of McNeese State University, and a native of Southwest Louisiana, to be here to discuss this position with you today and my interest in this position. I was born in Rayne, Louisiana, and for the first 3 years of my life, I grew up in Lake Arthur, and then the rest of my young adult life in Welch, Louisiana. I am a first-generation college student, and by all indication, I should have been a stop-out many, many years ago. My parents were very hardworking. They grew up in the Depression. My dad had a middle school education, and my mother had a high school education. And they worked very hard and instilled in me that determination, hard work, and the value of education. And so, as a first-generation college student, I came to my first college setting when I was 14 years old on this campus, at the district rally and for play and speech and literary rally. I loved it. I fell in love with the concept of higher education, not knowing what it was really before. And so I went through, I individually grew as a person and came to McNeese State University as a student. McNeese helped me along the way to learn, to grow, to make mistakes, to succeed, to be successful. And it gave me my first job in this profession as a recruiter. I began as a recruiter at McNeese State University almost 30 years ago. And I had the privilege to do great things here and at the other universities where I've worked throughout Louisiana, in South Carolina, and in Texas. And I have the privilege of currently serving as vice president at a university in Texas. Throughout my career, my focus has been on providing educational opportunity and service to students. The very same opportunity that was given to me, I give to students on a daily basis. It is why I do what I do. And it's been what McNeese has done over the years to provide the service, the wraparound, the assistance, the confidence that's provided to our students, and the ability to help them find their purpose and their potential at this university. And that is why I'm interested in this position. Throughout my career, there was always that one job. No matter how successful we were at the institutions or what have you, if I could come back and help and do that one job, it's this one. This university has meant so much to me my whole life. And if given the opportunity, I want to come back and help the university to be successful. McNeese has challenges now, has gone through some extraordinary things over the course of the last few years. The leader selected in this position comes in at an inflection point. We have the opportunity to make an impact on McNeese State University for many years to come. This university has been a cornerstone of this community, Southwest Louisiana, and our state and region for 85 years. And it's my job as president to help make sure it goes beyond another 85 years. My experience is in the field of enrollment management, student service, student success, and strategic planning in universities. I offer all these things to this position in helping the university have a pathway forward. And to do that, what I propose is that we come together and become one McNeese. It's going to take us all working together, no matter what part of the university that we're in, to move forward. And I'm willing to bring my skills, my experience, my abilities to be able to serve in this position. Make no mistake, the challenges are going to be big, but they are challenges that we can face together, and the solutions exist on this campus and by all of us working together. And it begins first with enrollment and student success. That is paramount to what we have to address as leaders and for the future of McNeese State University. The second area is academic support and academic enhancement. We must continue to provide relevant programs that our students are interested in and the programs to support students to be successful on our campus. The third is to enhance our student experience, making sure that our students get a worthwhile and vibrant experience while they're here, but we set them on pathways to be successful through experiential learning, through opportunities for them to grow and develop. The fourth area is through partnership, not only with our greater community here in Southwest Louisiana, but in our 5-parish area and beyond here, that has always been the cornerstone to McNeese, but also with our business, our industries, as well as our alumni that are all across this region, across our state, and around the world. And finally, we must concentrate on the value proposition that is higher education today. My first semester tuition bill at McNeese was $698. It's not that today. A lot of families, especially a lot of first-generation families, are making a concerted investment into higher education. And we must make sure as leaders that we provide an education at McNeese State University that is going to help our students be successful for many years to come and to find their place in a global marketplace to help them be successful. All these things can happen when we all work together. When we bring the community together as one here, there is nothing we can't do for McNeese State University. And finally, as I said, as an alum, I am very grateful to all of you for the time that you have committed to this search. It means so much to me as an alum for this university and for everything that we are as a people in Southwest Louisiana. So I thank you for the opportunity to give me to visit with you today, to talk about my qualifications and experience to bring to this position, and I stand available to answer all of your questions, and I thank you once again.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Benoit. At this time, we have questions from the committee.
I think it's on automatic, maybe? No?
Good morning, Dr. Benoit.
Good morning.
I'm going to start you off with an easy one this morning, okay? Define for us what you think are some of the main responsibilities of this position, and then give us some of your specific experiences and your specific skills that will highlight your potential for success in this position and fulfilling those responsibilities.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the question. Having served as a cabinet member for the last 8 years, I've been on the front lines through a lot of different things in administrations and figured out that each university is unique. So the roles of the presidents at each universities are going to vary a little bit, but there are some concentrated points that university presidents have to deal with, not only making sure that we provide the opportunity to give our students a great education here on campus, but to lead our faculty, staff, and administration at the university. It is my responsibility as president to ensure that I hire a cabinet that can provide the ability, the skills, the leadership to be able to help this university prosper. That I make sure that our faculty have the resources to be able to teach our students and give our students opportunities to excel in the classroom and beyond. I have a responsibility to this Board of Supervisors. I have a responsibility to the state of Louisiana to make sure that we are good stewards of the public trust as well as the public funds that are allotted to us. In addition to that, to make sure that we do have the resources to be able to operate effectively here on campus. That is securing the resources through our budget, through collaboration with the Board of Supervisors, the Board of Regents, and our university community here, but also to help sure that we solicit support and get resources, not only from our alumni, from sponsorships and things like that, but also to make sure that we go after necessary federal, state, local grant funding to be able to support the operations here we have on campus. So it's a multitude of responsibilities that are in there, but mainly a lot of things is to make sure that we have the mission of providing an education here on campus and to make sure that we are good stewards of the public trust. And as far as the experience, let me add to that. As far as the experience that I've had, as I mentioned, I've been a cabinet member on the direct lines. I have been a senior executive that has dealt with all these things in times of great need and times when we're very, very prosperous. I've had the ability to service and administer a multi-million-dollar budget and multi-million-dollar budgets and funds coming through the university at all levels, at universities that are smaller than McNeese State University and larger than McNeese State University. So it's a multitude of levels of experience there.
Dr. Benoit,
Yes.
how do you plan to establish accessibility and foster engagement with students, faculty, and staff?
Okay, thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. One of the responsibilities that we have as university leaders is to be accessible, is to be visible. We have to be visible not only at the university and the levels of our community, but we also have to be visible with our students, with our faculty and our staff. One of the things that I've learned as an effective administrator and as a member of cabinets, that the president has to be able to make time to meet with members of the faculty senate, available to meet with members of the staff council, staff senate, ability to meet regularly with the student leadership. When I was visiting with the students last night, one of the things I mentioned is I want to be able to go to the student senate and talk with them periodically. Certainly I don't want to be at all of your meetings, but I do want to be able to go with you to share with you things that are happening at the university, but also more importantly to answer your questions. That can be in a direct environment that we go there. It could be you meet me at Starbucks, we have a coffee, we talk about this. It could be something like when I was at LSU, the chancellor would sit in front of the student union and have ice cream with the students. So it's a variety of things that we can do to make our time available, to be able to listen, to be able to talk and to be able to strategize for the effectiveness that we have going forward for the university. As far as the faculty, one of the things that I mentioned is I want to periodically meet either every other week or at least once a month with the leadership of the Faculty Senate to be able to talk about things that are either going forward through the Faculty Senate or coming forward that's going to be coming to Cabinet, or a variety of inflection points that we have to deal with at the university. Because this is a shared governance model. We all have a varied interest in the success at McNeese State University, and we cannot exist in a vacuum. We cannot lead in a vacuum. It has to be something where we are transforming the institution, and we have to work together. And part of that is for me to be visible. So those are a few examples, Sam.
Dr. Benoit, Jimmy Trahan.
Yes, sir.
Faculty Senate.
Yes, sir.
In higher ed, shared governance has various meanings and applications. It's certainly interpreted and applied differently by administrators. Would you define shared governance as you see it, and share some strategies that you would use to implement and foster shared governance as you see it here at McNeese?
Thank you. Certainly, I touched on that just briefly, but I'll expand on that and say, the opportunity for us to be able to have a vested interest at all levels, from our faculty, our staff, and the administration, is that we have to work together and collaborate. One of the presidents that I worked for over time said, when you bring people into the discussion, the more ideas that you bring forward, the more things you discuss, the more things that you vet out, you will make a superior decision. And so I've always valued that. I valued the participation of our faculty and our staff in things that are happening at the university, setting our strategic priorities, helping to do our strategic planning. All of those things are necessary and proper for the success of the university. But as I mentioned, transparency is going to be the key. It's one of the things where I don't expect to be at every faculty meeting or at every Faculty Senate meeting. What I do expect is that we have a collaboration and conversation and that we work together. I want to regularly meet with the leadership to be able to talk about things that are important to the university, but also things that the Faculty Senate are considering. Will we always have the same agenda points? No. But there are opportunities for us to be able to collaborate, to be able to address issues, and to be able to work together. There are important things that are going to be relevant to the academic delivery of courses and to be able to talk about what's best for our faculty. And what's best for that isn't necessarily just the president making a decision unilaterally. It's something that has to be a conversation that happens between the members of the faculty, their representatives, and the administration at the university. So that is an example of what I would approach.
Good morning, Dr. Benoit. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Okay, my question for you is, how do you perceive the challenge of balancing academic and athletic priorities within a university setting? And what are your thoughts on effectively managing this balance?
Okay. Good question. Thank you so much. When I was working at LSU years ago, Mark Emmert was the chancellor of LSU before he became NCAA president. And he said in front of the entire university community, he said, athletics gets students to the front porch, academics draws them through the door. There has to be a partnership between our athletic community and our academic community on campus. They go hand in hand. One cannot exist without the other, right? Okay, so you have to have a partnership. I think that there is a balance to that we have to be able to deal with all of this. It's an important and vital part of our student life and the student engagement opportunities that exist on campus. But we are in the process of granting an education and disseminating knowledge to our students. So we must partner together for the future of both. All right, so athletics has always been a strong tradition at McNeese. And the quality of education that we have here at this university has always been paramount. We have to continue those things and work together to be able to accomplish them. As president, I see it as part of my mission to be able to go in and foster a collaborative point between those areas, but also a collaborative and inflection point of those two areas to help recruit students to the university and help to be able to meet our mission to increase our enrollment, to stabilize our budget, and to sustain who we are as a university. So it has to be something that is hand in hand and a partnership that is created for the overall mission of the university. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Benoit, another question.
Yes.
McNeese has established noteworthy partnerships and innovative program connections with various industries, presenting opportunities to address industry demand to boost enrollment, and potentially enhance private revenue. Could you share your experiences and insights regarding your involvement with such collaborative initiatives and how you've contributed to their success?
Thank you so very much. I'd like to start off first by talking about historically at McNeese State University how we've had so many great partnerships between our academic units on campus and the community in general. And one of the easiest I can draw from is engineering. When I was a student here and whenever I was a recruiter here, the level of partnership and collaboration that we had with industry, with the plants and everything, it was critical to the survival and success of our engineering program here on campus. Not only to help us attract good faculty, to provide scholarship funding to our students, to provide resources and make sure that our laboratories and things that were associated with delivering the education were always competitive and were always giving our students the best pathways forward. So that critical example is what we have to do to be able to foster the success of what we do in our academic enterprise in delivering education to our students. At the university that I currently work at and at the university where I was in South Carolina as a cabinet member, we worked hand in hand with our community and to be able to cultivate partnerships for the creation of new programs that were relevant to the students at the time. We worked, for example, in South Carolina with several of our businesses in our local community to establish cybersecurity as one of our majors. That was providing avenues to be able to create laboratories on campus, to be able to provide some keynotes, to be able to come in to different lectures and things we were doing, to be able to provide funding for scholarships for our students. Another example was whenever we needed to produce more nurses in our community at that point, we partnered with the Self-Regional Hospital that was in that area to provide nursing education to some of their students to complete degrees or to provide nursing leadership programs to address their needs. What we were able to do there is to provide an agreement where they would provide funding to be able to increase lab support, increase technology support that we were having in that particular program, but they also provided scholarship funding for their people in their hospital to be able to come take courses in there. We built those programs from the ground up at our universities, and they were very vital to the mission of our community and our institution. Part of what we do as universities, we serve the needs of our students that are coming in, but we also service the needs of economic development of our region and our community. So those things like hiring more, getting more teachers on the board, getting more nurses in the hospitals, all those things are critical to communities, whether they're large or they're small. And those are the types of examples and things that happen at the universities that are critical for survival, not only as a university and in our programs, but also to meet the needs of our greater community. So thank you, Ms. Moncrief. I appreciate that question.
Do we have any other questions from the committee?
Yeah, a couple of them, Dr. Benoit. You've been at Texas A&M Corpus Christi since 2019, and the literature you provided says that first-time freshman enrollment has increased by 29%, graduate enrollment has increased by 42.7% since 2019 and 2020. Give us some concrete ideas or plans of how you plan to increase the enrollment here.
Thank you, Judge Tibbet. I really appreciate it.
Are you taking responsibility for all this?
Sir?
Are you taking responsibility for these numbers?
Well, I mean, my entire staff worked very, very hard for this. You know,
Okay.
This is the thing, Dr. Thibodeau. In higher education,
Not a doctor yet.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, Judge Thibodeau. You can't take credit for everything that happens. You are part of a team. I'm very proud of the individuals that I've hired and put in place and the individuals that were there that all came together to work together to meet these great goals. You know, I've not claimed any one of these responsibilities as my own. They are part of what we have done together and collaborated, because that's what I do. I bring people together. And so one of the things that we took at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi, like any other university, 2020 hit us all hard, right? With the pandemic, the world changed. We had to think about different ways of doing things. So what I've learned over the years is that there are critical inflection points that you place on creating an enrollment priority. When I first began as a recruiter here at McNeese State University some 30 years ago, the solution to enrollment problems in a lot of people's minds is go get more freshmen. And that isn't something that is just your priority these days, because as enrollment leaders and as university leaders, we're facing an enrollment cliff over the course of the next year and a half, where nationally the plateau is going to be reached for the number of high school graduates, and it will decline after that. So more and more universities are competing for freshmen. So you not only have to go after an active recruitment program for incoming freshmen, but you also have to start recruiting people a little bit early. You need to reach into the elementary schools, the middle schools, give students an engaging opportunity on campus, but at the very same time promoting dual enrollment and other opportunities to be able to get students an experience to be able to get into the university. The other thing we have to do is to be able to diversify what we do in order to bring students into the university. And that is including not only first-time freshmen, but we have to build transfer pathways with universities that are in our vested interest in our service area and beyond. You know, what are we doing to establish articulation pathways with Sewella, with LSUE, with South Louisiana Community College, with Lamar Orange, with Lamar Institute of Technology? All these places are within a 150-mile radius of our campus and can be true feeders to what we do here. What we're doing right now in Texas is building articulation pathways with every community and technical college across the state of Texas. I don't want any one school to send me 500 students. That would be nice, but I want 100 schools to send me at least 5 or 10. So that way we sustain a pipeline model. In addition to that, we have to be able to continue to diversify and enhance our graduate programs. For a university like McNeese, the appropriate mix should be about 10 or 15% of our student body should be graduate students. If we have 6,000 students right now, it would indicate that we should have about 600 graduate students, where we're just under 500. So we have some opportunity there. But also, the biggest need that we have in higher education today right now is the fact that we have millions of students that went to college, stopped out, have some college and no degree. In the state of Texas alone, we have 3 to 4 million people that started and stopped out. In the University of Louisiana system alone, from what I understand, it's around 500,000, if not a little bit more, about 500,000, if not a little bit more. So we have some opportunity to outreach and bring students back into the university. We have to focus on those things initially to identify students to be able to come into the university. So we would put forth a strategic enrollment plan that actually takes into consideration what we have to do to build these blocks, to bring these areas back on campus, and we have to start day one. The secondary part of this, it is easier to retain a student than it is to recruit a student as far as finances are concerned. So at this point, we have to make sure that we provide the services that once we get students into the university, we actually have programs here to help them graduate, to help them persist. You know, things like providing advising opportunities, we have to enrich that. We have to continue to provide opportunities for them to engage with faculty and mentor opportunities here on campus. All those things that are going to be critical in order to help students succeed to go forward. So it's a complicated mix, but it is a mix that has to be able to be put together to sustain our students. Now I'll say this, when I was a recruiter, Southwest Louisiana was pretty much locked down. That was our area. You know, all the way, you know, Beauregard, Jeff Davis, Cameron, Calcasieu, Allen Parish, even so far as to say Vermilion, parts of Lafayette, Acadia, and over into Southeast Texas. We have got to re-engage and reinvigorate our opportunity to be able to solidify our contacts within the school systems, the partnerships we build there, along with our community and technical colleges around those areas to make sure that we have McNeese as a great educational opportunity and on the minds of students and the administrators in those communities to move forward.
You also spoke about the service needs of students. I read a report recently that many of our students are coming to colleges woefully unprepared. 60% of high school graduates are not at the proficiency level. 43% need remedial help.
Yes.
Those are some of the students you're going to be getting. How would you plan to address these deficiencies?
So one of the things, Judge Thibodeau, when a lot of the students are coming in, and I'll tell you, you know, as someone who's been in this profession for a while, after the pandemic, it was only exacerbated. Because during that time, a lot of instruction in the school systems were delivered electronically, just like they were everywhere else. So the need for students to issue additional assistance that they would get from their schools, they were having to get it virtually, and a lot of students learn at a lot of different ways. Even though this generation is very digitally native, they have a lot of things that they go through and to get assistance that way, it was a little bit harder on them. So there was a gap, as far as an achievement gap, that was coming from the students that were graduating during that time and since that time, that universities have had to look at and had to address. After the pandemic, a lot of universities had to go into opportunities for students to come into the university with admissions criteria that were a little bit different than they were before. It wasn't necessarily completely open admission, but it was test optional. It gave universities an opportunity to be able to come in and look at other things in order to let students in. So what you ended up with was students who weren't necessarily as appropriately prepared as others would have been. But what you had to do as institutions is to make sure that you have the resources to be able to address student deficiency coming in, whether or not that's in English or mathematics or whatever it was. A lot of universities looked at it a lot of different ways, but most importantly, universities concentrated on things like supplemental instruction and giving students an opportunity to be able to address the deficiencies and the things that they needed. When I was in Louisiana, we had part of the GRAD Act was that universities like McNeese and the research universities that were in the state, in addition to the comprehensive universities, we couldn't offer developmental education at that point. And things have changed a little bit since then. So the universities have supplemental education now that can be provided to be able to address the needs of the students. So that's first and foremost. The other thing that we have to make sure is that we have the necessary supports within the Writing Center and in the Tutoring Center to be able to address student needs when they're coming in. Every student is coming in with a different level of preparedness, from whatever school. I came from a school in Southwest Louisiana where we had great teachers at that point, but the top level of mathematics that we had was advanced mathematics and trigonometry. We didn't learn calculus. We didn't learn all those other things in Welsh. That's what we had at the time. Maybe a little bit different now, but that is 30-some years later. But what we had at the time, we learned everything that we could until that point. Every high school is going to be different. So when students are coming in, you have to be able to assess and address their needs. Part of what you need to do as a university on the front end is to be able to understand what the need of the individual student is. Some universities are doing testing when they're coming into orientation or right before to be able to determine what the need is for the student, either from English or mathematics, if they've taken an ACT or not, whatever it is to determine their level of preparedness to be able to help them be successful.
Suppose there's a divergence of opinion between the faculty senate and your ideas. How would you reconcile that?
Well, certainly, I'm not the person who's going to always have every idea, every solution. As president, you have to be available to be able to sit and have discussions. Sometimes my idea might be the right idea. Sometimes their idea might be the right idea. But I can't shut them down, and I'm not going to shut them down. I want to sit and have honest discussions and be able to talk about what we can do to be able to move forward. Hey, look, if you bring me data and you be able to show I think you're wrong and this is why, I'm open to that. I don't have every solution, but I will tell you that I will be willing to listen and address every single thing that comes up in partnership with not only our faculty, but our staff, and if the students bring concerns as well. That's what we're responsible for as leaders, to be able to act appropriately and make the best decisions that we can with the data that are available. But one of the things I've always found is that I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to have other people in the room to come and bring me ideas. I don't want somebody to just come in the room and say, okay, what's your idea? I'm just going to go with that. That's not how we can function and is not the best for what we can do forward for the institution.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
You're at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and you emphasize the partnership between athletic and academics. There's a tennis tournament this weekend, Southland Conference. McNeese and Texas A&M Corpus Christi are the two top teams. Who are you going to be rooting for?
So I will always root for McNeese, but can I go sit in the McNeese group on my own campus at that time? My boss might give me a different look. But I will tell you that throughout this whole thing, whenever, we don't have a football team currently at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. We're a basketball school and had been to March Madness the last couple of years. And this year it was different. I was very happy about that as well because, anything that is successful for McNeese, I'm very proud of. I care very deeply for this place. The game where it was in Corpus Christi, I had some folks here at the university text me, "Are you at the game? Oh my God." And I go, "No, I'm running data right now in my office because we have reports due to the board in about 2 days." I wish I was at the game, but certainly there, we've got very good athletic programs at Corpus that are very competitive and that compete against McNeese in a variety of levels. But I do wear my McNeese hat around town, and nobody's told me to take it off. So.
Thanks, Dr. Benoit.
Thank you.
Dr. Benoit, I do have an additional
Yes,
question
ma'am.
for you. As a long-term HR professional, one of the bigger concerns that we have here in the region is how to get great talent.
Yes.
I'd like for you to talk a little bit about how you would diversify the curriculum at McNeese to be able to help with industry and we need to diversify our workforce.
Sure.
What would be your plan to diversify that?
So one of the things as universities we have to do, we always have to be looking at what are new and relevant majors for our students. And that begins with our faculty and our academic leadership and the administration of the institution. There are different sources that you can do to bring in data that is national and regional, EAB. You can bring in, different groups that'll come in and help you figure out where are the most popular majors. But for me as an enrollment professional over time, I could always track what the interest of our student was when we were purchasing prospect names either from ACT or the College Board. You could see what the interest was of the students. And at that point, if you weren't addressing what the most popular needs were, you had some issues. That is only part. The secondary part of that is you also have to be able to figure out what are the upcoming industries that are in our area. And I'll give you an example to that. In Corpus Christi, Exxon is building a new plant that is going to be in our greater area. We have a lot of petrochemical industry right around our area. So we are constructing some programs. We just started engineering within the last 7 or 8 years. That is to meet the needs of our local community. We responded to that. We're partnering with the community college to provide 2+2 for them, starting with some of the engineering technology programs that we're going to be finalizing and finishing at the 4-year campus right after that. But we're also partnering with similar and like universities. Lamar Institute of Technology approached us to be able to partner. Our populations are very similar. We are an HSI and an MSI at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. The population in Lamar is relatively similar. So at that point, we partnered with them. So they're going to finish some 2 years study there. And instead of going to Lamar, they're actually going to come to Corpus Christi. And so they're going to come into our program. So we're meeting the needs not only of their petrochemical industry there, where they're also going to provide some scholarship funding, but we also did it to meet the needs of our greater community in our area. So you have to do that. The other thing that we have to do is to be able to look at long-term, what are the sustaining programs that are relevant? 20 years ago, cybersecurity was not on the mouths of probably anyone. It is one of the areas right now that is critical and is necessary and is proper. The things like, for your profession in HR, and I do have PhD work in human resource education, I'll tell you, one of the things that attracted me to that at that point, it is definitely something that helps us understand the market of where we are, to be able to understand what the needs of our greater community are. And so what we have to do is to be able to consult our faculty and our leadership in our community to understand what those needs are. The other thing I will tell you is our community college partners can also help us drive our model of creation of new programs. Every 2 or 3 years, what we do in enrollment management that I did in South Carolina and what we've done in Corpus Christi is do an analysis within a 200-mile radius of all of our community and technical colleges and the programs that they're offering. If we don't have feed-in programs, then we are stopping students at a 2-year period where they have to search for more education outside of their area. And what one of our responsibilities is to make sure that we disseminate knowledge to our region, that we help be a catalyst for economic development and a catalyst for growth in our area. So we've worked with our community colleges in those areas and to create new and relevant programs that will allow them to staff up their areas, but also to make good transition into the workforce to meet the needs of our students.
I have a question on the heels of that.
Okay.
If you are selected for this position, you will inherit a faculty that is low in morale. I think I can say that with clarity. There are faculty and administrative positions here. Given that money will make everybody smile, but it might not always be available, what are other thoughts or strategies that you would have to improve the morale, given that the employees of the university in the form of faculty are highly woven into the product of the university, which is the value of the degree?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Trahan. Certainly, faculty are crucial to the mission of the institution and dissemination of knowledge to our students. And I understand right now that over the last few years, our faculty have been through a lot, as has our staff and our students. And certainly, I have to understand that coming in as a leader and to be able to help them understand that I'm in it with them. Now, first and foremost, we have to stabilize the budget. That's the first thing we have to do. And in order to do that, we have got to be able to put in place the processes and the procedures and the objectives and the plans to be able to grow our enrollment and make it sustainable for the future. If you think in terms of collecting tuition revenue only, when I left McNeese State University, we had 7,900 students. Right now, for this spring, there are 5,400. So that's 2,500 students swing. And if you're collecting, say, $10,000 of direct or indirect revenue from tuition and fees for students, you're looking at approximately $25 million that does not currently exist in our budget. That can come back into the budget where we can address things on campus like faculty pay, and we can address things that need to happen on our campus to be able to move forward. That is a critical need. In times of very tight budgets, and believe me, I've gone through with a comb of our budget here at McNeese, and it's very tight. I can tell you a lot of times at universities that I've been at where that was a situation, the administration, and we did it when I first came to South Carolina, we had to look at a situation where we may not make payroll, so we had to make sure that we stabilize our enrollment, but at the same time, while we were growing a little bit to operate, what we made available to faculty is things like professional development. Did they have money to be able to go to conferences? Did they have money to be able to help sustain some of their resources and some of their research opportunities or different things that they were doing? We weren't even funding sabbaticals at the time at that particular institution. So we had to reinvigorate and reinstitute that. So all those things are opportunities and avenues to be able to provide some things to faculty as an opportunity to help them and to address the needs and the things that are most important to them. Money is, I understand, getting paid fairly and effectively is something that everyone should want and expect. And as a leader, it's what I want to work toward, and it's what we have to partner to do. But there are different opportunities that we can to provide things like that to be able to help address the needs of the faculty. But I will say, the first thing that we have to do, one of the first things we have to do, is we have to address pay across the university. We need to do a salary study to be able to understand where we are. And believe me, I know faculty understand where they are, but it's something that we have to put on record, and we have to have a plan to address it. And it's not a one-year plan, and it's not a two-year plan. It has to be something where we plan incremental opportunities to be able to address pay and opportunities to be able to reward performance. I'll also say reward performance because it is critical that we provide a mechanism for faculty to be able to be rewarded when they achieve. You know, obviously we have mechanisms built in place to be able to reward for tenure and promotion. But we've had faculty at McNeese and at a lot of universities that I've been at that have achieved great things. And there should be an expectation in the university's plans and protocols and policies that our academic enterprise begins with the chairs, the deans, the provost, making recommendations to the president to address faculty achievement, and when they do something extraordinary in their research and their teaching or their service, that we do make opportunities available for them at that point to be able to address their success.
Dr. Benoit, I have a question.
Yes.
We talked a lot about enrollment previously, and that's from the eyes of when times are relatively good or stable. I'd like to hear your thoughts on potential natural disaster plans or strategies. 2020 was a hard year for this area. 2 hurricanes, a freeze, and a flood, and the pandemic too, right before it all. So, and then before that it was Hurricane Rita. So I'd like to know your thoughts on potential disaster relief here on our campus and how you will support our students through those tough times.
Thank you for the question. As a native of Southwest Louisiana, I have been through a number of natural disasters and opportunities as a person, but also as a public servant in leadership roles in higher education. During Hurricane Katrina and Rita, I was working at LSU at the time, and we addressed a lot of different needs of our region, but I felt it the most about a year and a half later when I was hired by the University of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina to come and help rebuild enrollment. Enrollment at the University of New Orleans at the time before Hurricane Katrina had reached about 17,000. Right after the storm, it went down to 6,000, and then it started to recover a bit. So when I was hired there, it had got to about 10,000, and they said, we don't think we're going to ever get back to 17, but if we could get back to 11 or 12, it could be something that could stabilize what we were doing. And believe me, it was a tough time in the fact that right around where that campus was on the lakefront of New Orleans, the only restaurants that we had near campus was a Burger King and was a food truck right across from campus. And that's all we had. We had students that were living in conditions in places that were living off campus. They were living in FEMA trailers. They were living in places that were completely unsustainable. So all they had was the university. And as a leadership team at the university, directors, vice chancellors, everybody had to come together, and we had to wear a number of different hats in order to make things happen for our students. We had to think in terms of how we were feeding people, how we were housing people, the different things that we were going to do to recover things that were happening. We had satellite centers, one that was uptown in New Orleans and one that was on the West Bank, that were completely destroyed. So we had to think in terms of how we deal with the education that we were providing and the delivery in those areas. The simplest things, as far as making sure that a class met, or that how are they getting materials, or how are we getting an instructor to be able to go over in some cases. All those things were critical. And I had an extraordinary experience during that time, and it's something that I will never forget. And at every university, it's a little bit different. In Corpus Christi, we have hurricanes and different things we experience as well. We've had to do some of those. We've had ice storms, a lot of different things. You're going to always have things that are happening. Your leadership team, your crisis management team around campus has to be completely trained, vested. They have to understand what to do in those strategy times. What we do in Corpus Christi is we have tabletop exercises that we do several times a year where we plan it out. We have Hurricane Zeta, whatever it is, it's a training exercise to make sure that whatever happens is addressed. So it's critical that during that process we understand how to navigate all the things that we need to do to be able to service our campus and to service our students. The rebuilding of the university right now here at McNeese is critical, and our facility staff has done an extraordinary job of rebuilding the things over the course of the last 4 years. I mean, made tremendous progress. That progress will need to continue. The needs of our students during that time period have to be addressed. You know, when you think in terms of going through the old range, you know, all the food opportunities and different things that are in there. What about the services that are provided? How do we expand that around? Right now we've got some businesses coming down, some buildings coming down. We're having to use swing space to provide for different departments that used to be in Farrar Hall or were around Memorial Gym or in other areas that were impacted. Fine arts is a little bit offline and in different places. All those things are temporary challenges that are going to help us address a long-term goal. So as a leader, you have to understand how to provide the services to students that are there, making sure that we provide the critical infrastructure to deliver the academic instruction to our students, the support that's necessary to provide their tutoring, the books they need, the academic resources they need to be successful, but the simplest things as far as where to live, where to eat, all those things that are necessary to go along with that. And it's not just these things. You know, when I was at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, our preparatory exercises came at a critical mass, something we would never expect. You have to be prepared for anything. We were going into freshman orientation during the summer, and all of a sudden we had a bomb threat on campus. It was a device where we had to evacuate parts of campus, and the students were in residence halls overnight. Parents were at hotels. We had to have parents at the Cajun Dome area. We had to have students brought to an off-campus facility, a catering facility, until we got the all clear to be able to have them back on campus. So it's something that a lot of times you don't always prepare for, but you have to have a plan in place to address the critical experiences that you have that you need to provide, and you need to be prepared to be able to handle those opportunities when they happen.
All right, switch gears a little bit. Dr. Calais, do we have questions from that have been submitted?
Yes, President Gallo, we have one question. And good morning to you, Dr.
Good morning.
Benoit. So good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yes, this question comes from a staff member, Tammy Mayo. And she wants to know, what are your plans to fill the positions of Provost and Vice President for Business Affairs, given their retirement dates of June 30th?
So that will definitely be one of the first priorities for the new president coming in, and I thank everybody for the question. One of the biggest responsibilities that you have is to make sure that you assemble a good team, a leadership team, in order to be able to provide the necessary services for our students. Those are two critical positions, the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs and the Vice President for Business Services. We have two individuals that are retiring right now, and the first thing you have to do is to be able to address the vacancy. You can address it in one of two ways. You can either appoint interims into the position that are currently people on campus, or if you are so fortunate as to negotiate an extended retirement plan for those individuals a little bit further into the process. If you're not able to do those two things, there is a registry where you can bring in qualified candidates to be able to come in and staff the positions until an adequate search has been completed. When you are hiring positions at the vice presidential level, that is not a search where you can advertise for 2 weeks and be able to get a candidate in after an interview. It has to be something where there are a lot of different constituent groups that are brought into the discussion, much like a presidential search. You have to be able to, especially for the provost, there is a faculty voice that has to be present in that process. In the vice president for business, there is a complete university voice that has to happen in there because that deals with every financial part of the institution. So you have to be able to have the appropriate people that are involved in that process, and then you have to be able to go in and advertise effectively for an appropriate period of time in order to be able to recruit someone in there. There are probably going to be lots of different candidates that would need to come in for those positions and to be able to look for the best candidate that is the best fit to serve McNeese State University. But those are critical hires, and you cannot rush them. They have to be something that you take your time and you hire the right person. And you do not make a quick judgment. You have to make a judgment call that is very sound and is very methodical, and it considers the needs of the institution. So that's how I would approach it on the front end, but certainly I think you approach it at the very first part in securing an interim into those roles at the very beginning. I will say this. If selected into this position, we are almost the end of April, and the selection would be made next week. A president would have to obviously get a contract and then have an opportunity to be able to transition into the role. So there's about a 2-month period you're looking at there. If selected, I would want to immediately start having an opportunity to start transitioning and meeting with various folks in the university community to gather data, to begin to work on these things as far as these different positions that need to be filled. It's something that whenever I would come into the position on day one, I want to hit the ground running. I don't want to necessarily have to wait in order to be able to get more information at that point. I want to have a bevy of information that's provided to me prior to coming in to be able to make that, to make some transitional calls right at the beginning.
Thank you, Dr. Benoit.
Thank you.
President Gallo, there are no more questions from the audience members.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Calais. At this time, I would ask that the committee meet in executive session pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 42:17 to discuss the personnel matters in association with this presidential search. While in executive session, the committee may meet with its staff, legal counsel, or other persons it deems necessary. No motions nor other action may be taken while in executive session. May I have a motion and second to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Noble. Second by Mr. Peterson. Only the voting members are able to make motions. I wasn't overlooking you, Mr. Never. All right, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Dr. Jimmy Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Lola Donahoe?
Yes.
Dr. John Noble?
Yes.
Mr. Dana Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Mark Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Brad Stevens?
Yes.
Dr. Jimmy Trahan?
Yes.
Thank you. It is unanimous.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Calais. The committee will now meet in meeting room